For more on the VA shakeup, let's bring in Karl Rove, former senior advisor and deputy chief of staff to President George W. Bush. He is also a Fox News contributor. Karl, from what you know, what do you think about what Bob McDonnell, the new head of the VA, is announcing?
Well, it's a good first start. The VA has been broken for many years. He touched on a couple of issues here. One issue was getting rid of incompetent employees or employees who have violated the values of the VA. That's important. He talked also about expanding the number of doctors and nurses and health professionals available within the VA. There's one other important reform, and if you saw the program last night with Scott Pelley, there was one moment where the new secretary is visiting a VA facility in Boston, and a woman veteran hands him a note saying, "I'm from Alabama, and I had to come to Boston in order to get care." The biggest reform we need at the VA, in my opinion, is we need to make it easier for veterans to be able to get veterans benefits through a local hospital so that they don't have to travel long distances just to go to the VA. A lot of the problems, particularly of older veterans, are problems that can be handled by a local hospital, not by a specialized facility. Sure, if you've got traumatic brain injury or PSD or need help with a missing limb, there are specialized VA facilities that are superb. But a lot of things, particularly for older veterans, are problems that could be dealt with at a local hospital with a local doctor, and we need to make it easier for veterans to draw on the private health care in their communities and not just to go to a specialized VA facility.
You point out the VA has had problems for years. It had problems under the Bush administration and way beyond that, or way before that. But I just wonder if there isn't sort of a larger cautionary tale here. I mean, everybody wants to do right by our veterans. And, this is an agency that is set up to do so. But you had problems at Walter Reed a few years ago that took some time to correct. Is there a cautionary tale here about, trying to put, people's medical care in the hands of the government?
Well, look, the Veterans Administration has a tremendous long-time record of serving the veteran community, but realize they're hitting a demographic challenge here. We have World War II veterans, we have Korean-era veterans, Korean War-era veterans, we have Vietnam-era veterans, all of whom are now drawing on the VA for increasing amounts of health care. And it straps the VA. And again, one of the answers is to allow veterans to get care for their service-related disabilities at non-VA facilities, to expand it. There's an ability today for that in some regards, but we need to expand that, in my opinion, in order to allow people to get care in their local communities from facilities that can meet their need and from doctors with whom they have a familiarity. But you're right. I mean, when we trust too much to the central government, when we call on Washington to answer all these problems, sometimes the marketplace of doctors and physicians and healthcare facilities and hospitals all across the country can play an important role in helping solve this unmet need.
We usually call on you for some political analysis, and let's do that now. There's a new analysis, Karl, of the Republican win in the midterms, and that could highlight a path that Republicans could take to win back the White House in 2016, because Democratic losses were not just due to low turnout. The Times reports Republicans made significant gains in key voting blocks, Hispanics among them. I'm sure you've seen the paper's analysis. What do you think about it?
Well, look, the election returns give Republicans a lot of hope. In Texas, Senator John Cornyn got 49% of the Hispanic vote in winning re-election. Governor-elect Greg Abbott, our current Attorney General, got 44%. Cory Gardner got good numbers. All across the country, we got a significantly larger share of the Hispanic vote by focusing on the community's concerns, the economy and jobs, and by showing up, by going to the community and actively campaigning. We also had good progress in three other areas. We had progress among younger voters, millennials who had been overwhelmingly for Barack Obama in 2008, were less so in 2012, and were significantly more Republican in 2014. And that's a good group for us to go after. Also, women. The gender gap has been nearly erased in some places. The big disparity between women voting for Democrats and voting for Republicans was narrowed in many instances. And finally, working class people, particularly working class people in rural areas. Joni Ernst ran extremely well in eastern Iowa, in rural parts of the state that had long been democratically oriented. This idea of the Republicans being able to knit together a coalition that includes larger numbers of Latinos, women, younger voters and working class people is really exciting. But there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of it is going to depend upon how well the Republican Congress does at passing legislation, sending it to the president. Whether he signs it or not is less consequential. But do they have their act together to help create in people's minds an idea of a positive and optimistic Republican agenda?
Well, a lot of Democrats are saying they didn't do as well as they might have expected among Hispanics because there was no immigration reform, and Hispanics were angry at President Obama for that. Is that the case?
I think that's partly it. But look, the Democrats had this problem in 2012 and overcame it. Remember, what the concern inside the Hispanic community among leaders that I talk to is they sit there and say the Democrats had all the powers, all the levers of power in 2009 and 10 when they had 60 members of the Senate and a huge majority in the House, and they did nothing. The president didn't push it. So there's been some angst for a while about that, but it didn't hurt them that much in 2012. What really matters is the Republican message. Are we about jobs and opportunity and grow an economy for everybody? Are we concerned about the community so that we respect it and actively campaign in the community and ask for their vote? Or do we just simply ignore it? And the lesson of Cory Gardner and John Cornyn and Greg Abbott is if you show up and articulate a message that is center-right about jobs, economy, and opportunity, and do so with respect, it's a winning message in the Latino community.
A couple of Republican governors, Susana Martinez and Brian Sandoval, out west in New Mexico and Nevada,
right,
respectively, also won re-election. Karl Rove, we have to say goodbye. Karl, thanks very much.
Thank you, John.